Hey preschoolers. So we've got another week of Curious George stories, and I thought this was kind of a cool coincidence. I had pizza for dinner tonight, and the story we're reading about Curious George today is called Curious George and the Pizza Party. Have you ever been to a pizza party? Let's see. George was a good little monkey and always very curious. Today he wasn't just curious, he was excited. So excited. In fact, that he was running and turning flips and standing on his head. That's very exciting. A little girl in George's building had invited him to her pizza party. George had never been to a pizza party before, but he loved parties and he loved pizza, so he knew it had to be good. "George, it's time for the pizza party," said the man with the yellow hat. "Have fun and remember to be on your best behavior." George got to the party in perfect time. "Hi, George," called out the little girl. But oh, what was all of this? The children were wearing puffy white chef's hats and checkered aprons. George got a hat and an apron too. The best was yet to come. They weren't just going to eat pizza, they were going to make it too. "Everyone will get a piece of pizza dough to roll out and make a special pizza," explained the girl's mother. There were many little lumps of dough. "But first, let's play some games," she said. Everyone went into the living room to play Pin the Pepperoni on the Pizza. Everyone, that is, except George. He was curious about those pieces of dough. George thought and thought. If lots of little pieces of dough were good, maybe one huge one would be even better. Oh my goodness. Do you see how big that pizza is in his mind? He gathered the lumps of dough together and squished and squashed them until they became the very biggest piece of dough he'd ever seen. What fun! Maybe rolling it out would be even more fun. Oh my goodness. George poured flour on the table. And he rolled and rolled and rolled the dough with a rolling pin. It was messy work. First, he bumped over one of the chairs. Crash! Then he knocked over the sack of flour. Thump! Oh, the flour looked like snow lying on the floor of the kitchen. George liked snow, though, so he didn't mind at all. Soon he had gotten the dough nice and thin. Ooh, he rolled a really big piece of dough. But the thinner it got, oh my goodness, the further it spread out. Before he knew it, the dough covered the table, then the chairs, and then George. Without the flour, it started to stick to everything, including George. George stopped to think. Maybe the dough was better off in small pieces after all. George got a pair of scissors and began cutting up the dough into lots of different shapes. He thought everyone would be pleased. "George, what have you done to the kitchen?" The little girl's mother didn't look very happy. "I think it's time for you to go home now." Oh, how surprised and sad George was. Well, sometimes that's what happens when you make a big mess. But just then the children burst into the kitchen and saw the mess that George had made. "George, what happened?" asked one boy. The other children looked at the shapes George had made with wide eyes. "Wow, George, I've never seen pizza dough like that before," said the little girl, smiling. "Well," said her mother, "if you can clean up this mess quickly, George, I suppose you can still stay to make pizza." Oh, good. He gets a chance to fix what he did and clean up his mess. Well, let's see if I can turn the page. The children all helped George clean up the kitchen. He was lucky to have so many good friends. As they worked, they talked about the pizza. "I'm going to make a pizza that looks like a star," said one little boy. "And I'm going to make one that looks like a house," said a girl. Oh, look, and George is flipping the pizza dough up in the air. Once the kitchen was clean, the real fun began. All the children picked out perfect pieces of dough and got to work. They spooned on tomato sauce and sprinkled on cheese. They added lots of vegetables and pepperoni. Those look good. Look at all those shapes of pizza. The pizzas looked wonderful. One looked like a rainbow, another like a stop sign, and another like a balloon. There was even a pizza that looked curiously like George. Does that look like George? Well, George, said the little girl's mother, the pizzas taste great, and thanks to you, they look wonderful too. Everyone agreed. It was the best pizza anyone had ever seen or tasted. For the second time that day, George was so happy that he turned flips and stood on his head. Of course, it was a little harder to turn flips with so much pizza in his belly, but George didn't mind. It had been a wonderful pizza party. And you know what? I think that's a really fun idea to make pizza in different shapes. So maybe if you ever get to make pizza at your house, sometime you could try it and you could cut the pizza into different shapes and bake it and then see what it looks like when it comes out of the oven. Maybe I'll have to try that sometime too. If I do, I'll let you know how it goes, okay?